Back it up. I want her, I want sex. Oh, she smells sweet danger. I want her, I want sex. Oh, she smells sweet danger. I want her, I want sex. Oh, she smells sweet danger. I want her, I want sex. Throttle this day. Yabba dabba do, yeah. Throttle this day. You know you wanna. Rubber dub dub. Rubber dub. Throttle this day. Yabba dabba do. I want sex. You can only call the pants. I want sex. Back it up. Let's dance. You can only call the pants. I want sex. She smells of sweet danger. I want sex. She smells sweet danger. Danger, Will Robinson.
This yarn begins with a very young man, scarcely older than a boy, and when he first grew hair in his pants, he thought it was merely to enjoy. He chased the girls, he tried quite hard, he wasn't very coy. At every dance he pursued their pants, the lust-filled teenage boy. And he cast aside, when he thrice tried, his virginity without joy, with a teenage tart who played her part, though she was no Helen of Troy. Make love not war was what they said, the slogan of the time, and the boy-turned-man was easily swayed at a ringing pleasant chime. So he set himself to learn all there was of this pleasure so sublime. He learned to seduce girls ethically, sure polite sexuality was no crime. He told no lies, he didn't drug their minds, his technique it was perfect prime. But he bedded women just for fun, not for a reason nor for rhyme. And many times he tried to settle down to bed with only one, but every time it fell to bits, it wasn't any fun. He finally came to live alone, a hermit in the sun, and when for a year he'd steered quite clear from seducing anyone, then he fell in love with a girl so sweet, who had before been in love with none. Yet that bloody fool was led astray by his tool, which was truly very dumb.
Do I make you Randy? Yeah.
Back in high school, when I was having sex education, okay, in our very first lesson, I remember it well, and the teacher gave us a test just to see what our understanding was about sex. Okay, it was a test. We all had to write down our answers, and the question was, what is sex? You know, and we all wrote down what we thought sex was. Okay, and you know, the whole class went off and wrote things about intercourse, you know, like penises. They wrote about penises and vaginas and getting naked and, you know, all that sort of stuff, okay? And I must admit, that's what I wrote down as well. You know, but you didn't know what everyone else had written, okay? And when the teacher came up to me, he said, Ed, you got it wrong. And I went, I was shocked, okay? And there was only one kid in the class that answered the question correct. And that is, sex means one male, one female. It's got nothing at all to do with intercourse.
My tits seems to like it here. What do you think, tits? I take that as a yes. How about you?
I like it firm and fruity.
Come on! Come on!
Sex is very important. Now, for the young people, it's more important than people in my age. Oh, God. Sex at my age, that's cool. You see, at my age, I remember what we did. I just can't remember why.
So, sex, it's pretty much like the good, the bad, and the ugly, really. There's all different types of sex, there's all different things to do with sex, so we're going to get to those. Now, of course you've got good sex, in which guys would probably say, yeah, good fucking root, you know. And you've also got bad sex. Now, bad sex can be smells, noises, accidents, and worst of all with bad sex is STDs. So make sure you always protect yourselves, guys, from that, because that's something we do not want. And of course you've got that beautiful, slow and spiritual sex, you know, that kind of long, grasping moments. But you get what I mean. Sounded like a fucking book then. Of course, with sex, you've got different turn-ons, different turn-offs. Some people have some really strange and wicked fetishes. Wicked and dirty at the same time, if that makes sense. Some of the fetishes that you can come across, I guess, are, of course, all those foot fetishes, and I've even heard of vomiting. I actually had a friend back ages ago when I used to be Yahoo Chat, and they actually had one guy on there who wanted to meet up with her and wanted her to take a dump on his chest because it turned him on. Fucking weird, I know. So there is, like I just said, there's all different types of sex. The good sex is the best sex, of course. The bad sex. But also one encounter, actually, well, not an encounter, but something I remember from high school. I remember one of the guys, you know, one of the stories getting around back then, and put me off of Mars bar rappers for ages, Mars bars in general. But apparently some people we knew from school were getting it on, totally forgot a condom, and had nothing else but a Mars bar, ate the Mars bar, and used the wrapper apparently, so it mustn't have been too big. But how awkward that would have been for the female on the other end. But just stories like that we used to hear in high school, you know, so it did put me off of that for a while.
During a deep vaginal orgasm, assuming the woman is ovulating and there's no mucus plug in the cervix, as the uterus and the vagina spasm out of sync with each other, one set of spasms creates a negative pressure inside the uterus, and simultaneously the cervix is pushed into the posterior fornix where the man's pool of ejaculate should be, because if there's a deep vaginal orgasm it generally happens just after the man ejaculates. And then the counterspasm acts to close the cervix and push the seminal fluid up towards where the egg is ideally going to be waiting in the fallopian tubes. Now they've done pressure tests on this, and they've done sperm counts above the cervix, comparing women who did have a deep vaginal orgasm with those who did not have a deep vaginal orgasm, and the evidence is pretty clear. You know, a deep vaginal orgasm is a mechanism to push the sperms to where the eggs are. That's part one. Meanwhile, you got your male in the natural form equipped with a foreskin, and the foreskin is actually a piston ring on a vacuum pump. You know, the idea is on the instroke the foreskin folds down along the shaft. On the outstroke the foreskin sticks to the vaginal wall, and it creates a strong low pressure zone on the outside of the cervix, and this is supposed to extract another man's DNA from above the cervix, because some ovulating women are promiscuous. And the idea is that if the bloke is having sex with a promiscuous woman, he needs to be able to extract somebody else's DNA before he puts his own there. And of course, the more excited the woman is, the more likely she is to have a deep vaginal orgasm. So we get into a corner of mechanics where the larger the penis, the better the fit, and the longer the man can keep it up, the better his chances are of reproducing for the next generation.
Hey, how you doing?
When spirit individualizes and materializes onto this plane of existence, spirit starts to search out for itself. Spirit wants to connect with other elements of itself. So sex is the starter of life. Sex is the appetizer for creativity. Sex is nature's way to get us turned on.
Do I make you horny, baby?
It is my view, that many millions and millions of years ago, the Earth was a gigantic egg in space. It was a ball in space that had the potential for life. It had water, it had air, and had all the minerals. It had all the building blocks for life. And life, this is my view, life started after a comet or a meteorite came from outer space and penetrated the Earth's atmosphere, which caused this big chemical reaction to occur on the Earth, which was like the egg. And this gave birth to life. So that comet was like the sperm that fertilised the egg. Okay? So, an act of universal sex created the Earth as we know it today. So life on Earth is so special.
Well, still thinking along the lines of sex. I remember having performed a wedding ceremony once for a young couple, so much in love. And the day following their honeymoon, she called me. She was in tears. And she said she needed to talk to me. And I thought, well, okay. So she came in, sat across the desk, and, related this to me. She said, when we went on our honeymoon, that first night, I had a burden. And on my heart, I wanted to tell him the truth. And I said, well, what might that be? And she said, I wanted to tell him that, there had been another man in my life. And I thought, a worthy confession. And she sobbed, and I handed her the Kleenex, which was tax deductible, of course, and I had an awful lot of it there in the office. And then she said to me, he looked at me with tears in his eyes, and I knew I'd broken his heart. And he said to me, there's been another man in my life too. People, she was so embarrassed. She didn't know which way to turn.
There was a bit of research where somebody discovered that if a girl goes from being in nappies to puberty, being able to smell her biological father in the household, she hits puberty and has her first period years later than if she does not smell her biological father's pheromones in the house she grows up in. And we're talking 13 to 15 years old at first period versus 9 to 11 years old at first period if she can't smell her biological father. Apparently, if she has one stepfather and that stepfather is supportive and he doesn't abuse her, if he does all the things that a father is supposed to do, then she'll come halfway between the two extremes. But the hypothesis is that if the girl grows up smelling some other man's pheromones in the house but not smelling her biological father, it means that her mother has a breeding strategy of change partners, and therefore it's a good idea for the girl to hit puberty early and get out of the house and start her own household. The girls who don't smell their biological father, 9 to 11 years old at first period, and by 13 to 15 they are cycling fertilisable eggs and they can get pregnant. The girls who smell their biological father in the house, 13 to 15, before they have their first period. And they don't lay fertilisable eggs till they're 16 to 18. So they take a much slower approach to the breeding business.
Would you go to bed with me?
Like I said, there's all different points of sex. We could go on and on and on. I think it's a beautiful thing if it's right with the right person. And yeah, it's kind of like a hit and miss, really. You've got to, you're going to have your duds, of course, but you're going to have good ones, and it's just like a hit and miss, really. But then when you find that one person, that you can really enjoy and explore each other properly, then, that's good sex, I guess. But, like I said, there's all different points of sex. There is a big thing today with teenagers especially, with the pressure of sex. A lot of the younger generation feel that there's this real pressure and need to have to do it just because all their friends are doing it. So, like I said, that could go on for ages. I don't know. I think besides the peer pressure, I think some of the biggest things is expectations of the first time. And then you get those people who kind of want, the whole sex before marriage because they want it to be perfect or beautiful, and really, there's no such fucking thing. It's not going to be perfect because it is your first time, if that makes sense. But the biggest thing I can say, besides all the bad things that happen with it, the good things, and all those funny other things that can happen along the way, would be, don't be scared to try new things. I think that's how you can keep a good sex life, with your partner or bed buddy kind of thing, is to really, keep an open mind, be open to try new things, experiment, and don't be scared. And of course, let people know what you do like and what you don't like. Don't always be scared to speak up in that sense, because I do know that a lot of people are scared to tell like their partner or somebody that they're seeing that, no, I really don't like that, but so yeah, speak up, but yeah, have an open mind, experiment, and have fun with it. Like I said, you're going to have hit and misses along the way, so don't expect perfect sex every time. So I guess that's just my little two bobs there on this topic.
That's right, having sex in your dreams. And it's fun, it's pleasurable, and it's safe. It's just you and your dream character, and no one ever has to know what you're up to. Thanks to lucid dreaming is actually becoming aware in your dream that you're actually dreaming. Yeah, I've had a lot of lucid dreams in my life. So if you can do some lucid dreaming, you can have sex with every hot actor and fictional character and good-looking real-life friends when you want to. The way you want and as many times as you want. You could go to bed with Kim Kardashian, Taylor Swift, or Susanna Boyle, whatever, whoever. So dream sex can lead to a lot of frustration though, okay? Most of the time it does not lead to climax. So you wake up particularly hot, you feel bothered and unfulfilled. Still worth trying though.
And sex, that devil woman that we have chased, that in the early part of our lives we so longed for, we so wished for, we so dreamed for. In my day we didn't have the internet, but we did have National Geographic. Whoa, 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 whoa. I love the ladies of the Dark Continent. But in all truth, Viviette, in your search for wisdom and meaning about sex, I've got to say that the two most important moments in sex are the first time that you ever had it, and actually, very importantly, the last time you ever had it. Because a wise man knows that no matter what the eventuality of the experience when asked by his partner, was it good? The answer is always, it's the best I've ever had. That's a usable tool. But the first time when we have sat in class and we didn't want to stand up and read our papers because we obviously had a problem, the first time when we experience it probably is the most majestic moment of a young life. And the last time, particularly when you're old geezer's age, the last time is memorable. And the beauty of it is, for me, there is a close relationship between the very first time I ever experienced that goddess, that calling vixen of pleasure, gratification, the beauty, the exposure to the real world. I'll never forget that first time. And the last time, they're very much related. You see, I was alone both times.